So the byline of this Vice article, she gets 1.7 million. Sam Lessin's venture firm gets 5% of her creator earnings for 30 years. So you're saying, hey, she's going to make at least $1 million a year in order for you just to break even.
Yep.
But investing that money for 30 years, you really need to do what, 5 or 10 times that amount?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's what is venture capital, right? And the end of the day, like Marina, is not, who's the one you're referencing was in the article. She's not at zero. Like she's making pretty meaningful money already. She has a meaningful following, but she's sees an opportunity where she can take investment dollars from us and dramatically improve her business and like the scope of what she's able to do. I mean, I think that's, for a creator, this deal makes sense. It makes sense for her. If she's like, if I can raise my earnings by 5%, this deal pays for itself, right? Like in a sense. And then for us, we're basically betting like venture capitalists that actually she's going to crush it, right? That providing the right seed capital at the right time can dramatically change the outcome in terms of what she's capable of producing in her career. And we want to benefit along with her in that.
So she's not Mr. Beast with whatever, crazy tens of millions of subscribers. She's got 4.6 million subscribers on YouTube, which is really hard to do. But so she's definitely cleared like being a notable celebrity. She might make low millions of dollars a year or something like that. What is she in the business of currently? What is her YouTube channel about? What attracted you to her business as the first one?
She has a few. And I think that's partially what we look for is like some level of versatility, right? But like part of her brand is built around, Russians learning American business culture and things like that, because she's an immigrant and has a great story around that. She does, some other stuff around culture. She has a bunch of interesting audiences that she's built together, with a few different channels. And our view is like, again, like this is someone we want to be aligned with long term. We think she's going to do a lot more really interesting work in her career. It's not necessarily about owning one specific niche or one audience. It's about, if you're investing with someone over a 30-year time horizon, you're really investing in their growth, right? As people, as leaders, as business people, as creators in a lot of ways, shapes, or forms. Now, if David Dobrik or Mr. Beast or someone came and said, hey, I would love financing, would we do it? Absolutely, right? It looks more like a growth deal, right? It's not a venture deal. But there's no, in the end of the day, the basic thesis, which is, businesses are getting smaller and smaller, right? It used to be thousands of people, now it's 10, now it can be individual creators. Finance should be able to scale down and flex, right, to support these individual creators. Why not, right?
And if she were to create 5 companies in that time, you would get 5% of those companies as well. So that's fantastic.
5% of her equity in the companies, right?
Oh, like, sure, right. So if somebody gave her 20% of a perfume brand, you would be getting 1 point of that 100-point pie, or 5% of her 20%.
Yeah, exactly.
Which makes total sense. So tell me about what that negotiation was like. Did she understand it? Because this is the first time I think anybody's done this, to the best of my knowledge, right? I mean, I've never heard of anybody investing in a creator.
People have tried forms of this. I mean, I think that, one of the things I really appreciate about Marina and working this through with her is she totally gets it from day one. And then actually was a really great, I wouldn't say sparring partner, but person to work with to actually work out the kinks on how to do this, right? Because she's sophisticated, she has good lawyers around her. This is the type of thing you actually, especially as an investor, if we came in and, like bulls in a china shop and made up some deal with some creator who didn't understand anything, right? Like it doesn't serve anyone, right? It doesn't serve us from a brand perspective. We want to do more of these. It doesn't serve the creator, But what was cool about working with her, and we did work very closely on several iterations of how to actually paper this and make it work and the details and how do you think about self-employment taxes and like really structuring it properly, was, I think that we got to a really great place where, everyone's like, yep, this deal works. It's papered as we intend it, and we can roll it out and do way more of them, right? In a scalable way. So, again, it was a negotiation in terms of like, how do we come up with fair prices? How do I have LPs? Like, I need to present them with a deal that makes sense. Like, if it doesn't make sense for them, it doesn't make sense for, she has to want to do the deal, right? So like, we needed to find a good space in there, and a good model that works for everyone.
So she's incented to generate as much revenue as possible. She gets to keep 95% of everything she makes, but she gets to get this big chunk of change now to deploy to build her brand how she sees fit, right? So is it a company of her, or how do you structure it? I'm curious. Is it an LLC or something?
Yeah, we basically created an investment LLC, which she controls, right? We don't control it. It sits kind of alongside and has contractual rights to basically a piece of her earn out. So, most creators, even at this scale, even, when you're getting going, they do have some sort of earn out or LLC, right? Which they should, right? And like we can, And so we basically kind of sit alongside that as a separate entity that she controls. We have certain information rights that are pretty meaningful but limited. We try to make it super simple, right? So that we can kind of get some transparency on what's going on. But beyond that, our whole thing is like, we don't want to make money if you're not making money, right? If you are making money below a certain level, we don't want to be paid. Our goal is not to be paid on the marginal case, right? We don't want to be taking money you need. But look, if you end up building the next Mr. Beast brand or become the next Jeff Bezos, right? Or the next Elon, the ultimate cult leader, the reality is like, if the upfront financing helped you get you there, that's a great outcome. And then the beauty of venture, which you know well, Jason, is that your super winners pay for all the losers, right? Which means the irony is that it's the cheapest money available, right? Which is partially why people always like 30 years is so long. Like, it's all about alignment, right? As long as I'm aligned with the winning cases, there's no backdoor where I can bet on Elon Musk, but not end up making that 5%. Then I can make the cost of capital so much lower for everyone else, right? Because I know that. Whereas, there's a lot of other products out there, like people talk about ISAs, income sharing agreements, right? The problem with ISAs is they're pretty expensive because they're so limited, right? They kind of cap out so quickly.
They do
on the
one
return.
thing, right? They'll send you to Lambda school or nursing school, and instead of you paying $50K for nursing school or $40K, whatever it is, they'll pick that up. They basically want you to return double for them taking the risk, which seems reasonable over like a 10-year period, but you have to break a minimum, right? Did you come up with a minimum she has to make in order to take the 5%?
Yeah. Absolutely. The minimum on our version of the deal is, I'm sure, much higher than any ISA you'll ever find out there. Right?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would assume.
Yeah, because we're not trying to monetize, if non-winning cases, right? But I think, again, I'm not against ISAs. I think they're an interesting product and an important one. We've invested in the ecosystem. But I think the fundamental difference is ISAs always have a cap in them. They say, you're not going to pay us more than 2x the value of the education or whatever. And I understand why. But what that means is that the actual cost for everyone's much higher, right? Where it's almost like, whereas if you do our version of the deal, which is an uncapped upside, then the average cost can be much lower, right?
Yeah, and then in fairness, you kind of can project what a nurse is going to make, 100%. Or a developer over a non-entrepreneurial nurse or developer, let's say, which is a whole different category. This is an entrepreneur.
Okay, everybody, let's take a moment to talk about growth marketing and all the tactics and hacks that are out there. With me today, Jake Badsgaard. He is the CEO and founder of Disruptive Advertising, which you can visit at disruptiveadvertising.com/twist. So, some questions for you, Jake. When is too early to start marketing your Cyber Monday or your Black Friday? What's the right time to engage people, and how do you engage them?
Yeah, that's going to depend on the audience, but the cheapest customer is the person that's already bought from you before. And it's time today to start warming up the audience that bought from you last year. With custom audiences on social or email, it's time to get on top of those right now and getting them warm and ready to engage. As far as new audiences are concerned, there's a lot of opportunity to explore new platforms outside of the traditional Google, Facebook channels, like Instagram, TikTok, some of these other ones, LinkedIn, YouTube. Let's get some new audiences in place and test those out and find what's working so that we're ready to scale when game time comes.
All right, that's great advice. So if you want to sign up for a free digital marketing audit with Jake and his company, Disruptive Advertising, just visit disruptiveadvertising.com/twist. And if you go into business with Disruptive, you will receive a $250 gift card and a free Friday to Sunday ski trip in Utah. We'll see you on the slopes. It's going to be a great season.